All right, sweet. So yeah, just gonna go live. I'll wait till a few more people jump on. If you got any questions, just make sure you chuck them down in comments. I'll try answer them all. But yeah, definitely comments. Pretty awesome day yesterday. It's a good day out here. Yeah, sweet. So as people jump on, just say hello. Just if you got any questions, just chuck them down. How's it going, Braden? Yeah, chuck them down in the comments. So just drop a comment if you got any questions as we go through this. I'll try to answer them all. But yeah, basically what I'm going to go over, what I took away from the day. Also a few things about preparation, what you can do to prepare for a day like this, and also what I think made yesterday a really good success, and yeah, just all about it. So yeah, yesterday, those of you obviously watching probably know that Ethan Harder had a really bloody good crack at the 8-hour Merino U record over here in Western Australia. And he was unsuccessful, but he also shore the second most Merino U's in 8 hours that has ever been done in history at 20 years old. So I think he should be extremely proud of that. It was a bloody good day. He showed a ton of guts, and yeah, I think he earned a lot of respect from that, but was an epic day as well. So starting off, I thought I would talk about a few things that went really well on the day. So on the day, Ethan's first run, like his gear selection and team were really good. The team pulled through. Basically, the good thing, one thing that I thought was really, really good that Ethan done is he selected people around him that might not have been necessarily the most experienced in terms of some of his support crew, but every single person that he had there meant something to him and it helped him in some way along the way on his sharing career, and that was what he drew a lot of inspiration and motivation on the day for, and I thought that was outstanding. So a couple of the more experienced heads he had was Cartwright Terry and the Pope. Those two guys, just a ton of experience, and they really did make a big difference on the day. Pope was working on the gear, and Cardi was there being his second, and just having those cool level hits with a lot of experience was something that I think helped out Ethan a lot to balance out a support crew who were extremely supportive and behind him the whole way, and knew how to G him up and basically get him pumped throughout the day, and having a couple of cool level hits there as well sort of helped quite a lot as well. One of the big takeaways was that Ethan, he shares with emotion. Every single run he started, he would look at photos of family members. I'm not too sure if they were passed away family members, but he would get extremely emotional, and he was just drawing on that energy, and you could just see how much it meant to him throughout the day. And when he had to go to those deep places, he looked on that to figure out why he was there, and every time he asked those questions, he knew exactly why he was there, and he was able to keep digging deep. The second run, he was pretty buggered. To be honest, he didn't have the best preparation for this world record attempt. There's definitely a few things that can be improved for next time. Just purely like a lot of things came up, he had a baby and stuff like that. Not making any excuses, but yeah, definitely there's definitely some work to do in the background, which is cool. But he was absolutely knackered in that second run. He was digging deep on some fairly tough shit, trying to make up for he was down a few and he was trying to make it up, but he just couldn't. Talking to him at lunchtime, he had a pretty sore wrist, and he was buggered. But in that third run, he just looked at all his family, his friends that he'd surrounded, and he just basically looked each one of them in the eye and said, you could just see he was not going to lay down, and he found an extra gear. There's a good book called Can't Hurt Me by a guy named David Goggins, and one of the stories in that is that he ran a 100-mile race, basically no preparation. He just thought, I'm a tough, fit guy, I can just go run 100 miles. about 70 miles in, he realised he was in Schitt's Creek, literally, and he pretty sure he shat himself at that point. Basically, everything gave out. He was pissing blood. He'd actually developed stress fractures in his legs, and he thought he was completely done. But the reason he done that, he had one of his friends, I think, in the Navy SEALs, was in an accident. He was killed, and his family members. So he was doing this race to basically raise funds for fallen members, and that just kept him going. And one thing he said throughout that is that when we think we're at our darkest, when we think we've got nothing left, we're probably only at 40%. And looking at Ethan yesterday, and knowing what I know about fitness and how the body works, yeah, he didn't have a lot in the tank physically, but he was just able to keep digging, keep going, and keep moving. So one thing that I learnt, or that I've known about Ethan for a long time, is the young fella. He's just got a solid mindset. And the good thing about yesterday is we were talking at lunchtime, and he goes, "It wasn't my mind that gave out; it was my body." And we were talking the day before. He knew he wasn't fit enough, but there was no way he was going to stop. And the good thing about that is, like, you can prepare the body. That's an easy fix. Training and health and fitness is actually really easy to fix. You just got to stick to a plan, be consistent. But if you don't have this, if you don't have that top 2 inches, if you haven't prepared your mind, you're always going to struggle, and it's a lot harder to develop. So in talking about that, the things that I think Ethan done really, really well is we actually used a lot of shed practice. So for him doing the 2 fundraisers, and he got a little bit of shit for doing these, like they were crushed out lambs, but the reason why he was doing them, he was preparing his mind, he was preparing his body for battle. He put himself in the exact situation that, you know, one of these record attempts is going to be. And if you've never been in that situation, especially if you're not fit, you are going to struggle. So there's a lot of things out there, and you can be as fit as you possibly can be. You can do all the training in the world, you can do all the nutrition, but if you haven't prepared for the actual conditions where you've got someone timing you, where you're putting yourself under pressure to hit tallies, you're sharing under similar conditions to a world record attempt, then when you get there on the day, that extra pressure, that extra just those extra tough conditions, that extra stress on the body, that's all going to play a huge part, and it can actually make you use a lot more energy than, you know, if it was just a normal day in the shed. And when it comes down to it, this ain't a normal day in the shed. This is a world record. The week leading up to it, Ethan, you could see the stress that was on him. He was under a lot of stress, but he handled it bloody well, because in my opinion, he'd done this work a lot of times before by doing these fundraiser days. He'd put himself in the shed and just prepared by having people count his time. He'd also, just talking to him, he'd basically been thinking about this day for years. Basically, like, you listen to him and he says, I've been thinking about this since I was 7 years old, and he's not bloody lying, Like, you talk to all his mates, and I was talking to a couple of them, and, you know, everything, like Ethan, he's got a lot of confidence, and it almost comes across as ego, but in terms of an athlete, you got to have that unshakable mindset, and with him, he was 100% confident that he could do it. And, you know, like everything he said he was going to do, he gave it his best shot anyway. And that mindset, he prepared himself up here, you know, for the last 12, 13 years. And on the day when he got there, he had nothing left in the tank physically, but he was never going to stop, and he was still running them at 5:30, even though he was behind. You know, you could see he knew on the last hour that he probably wasn't going to get there, but he just kept running at them. He gave it everything he could, and he showed the heart of a lion, and I think that's pretty important. So I guess a couple of things that definitely could have been improved is his overall fitness. He really hadn't trained for this much at all. He'd done a bit of training earlier on in the year. Then with things like a baby coming along, he'd changed around a few different places with his sharing. A few things didn't come together, and he sort of fell off the wagon a bit with the training and the health. Sort of done what he could, but not 100% sticking to the plan. So that is very, very easy to fix. And after yesterday taking that experience, I'm pretty sure that the next time he has a plan, he's going to follow it 100%. And he's got a few other guys around him now that are probably going to be there with him a lot more, and that'll make a big difference. And so on that point, one of the reasons that Ethan did find it hard to get that training and that motivation is he was alone in his training quite often, and he found it hard to just go and do it on his own, purely because there wasn't a lot of guys around him that were into it as well. And you're probably going to find that there's an old Scribe song, and he's like, P Money said it's lonely at the top, and when you're trying to climb to that top, when you're trying to climb that mountain, you are 100% going to be very, very lonely quite often. And that's one of the things. You're either going to have to bring people in and just constantly nag people to come along and do it with you, or you're going to have to do it yourself, and that requires a level of discipline. And it's probably more so just finding your why. Like if you have those reasons to show up and do it, 9 times out of 10 you will. But you've also got to be, it's also going to be a lot easier if you've got people around you that want to do it as well. So having those people and finding those people can make a big difference as well. Yeah, guys, so if you've just jumped on, if you're still watching, make sure you chuck some comments down below. I'm happy to answer questions about the day. A couple of things that also went well. We had some good, the hydration and drinks were pretty on point this time. We had a bit more time to prepare. We used a really fast-acting carb powder in his water. That gave him a lot of energy. Probably we did have planned to have a lot more slower carbs during his lunch and his smoke out breaks, but he wasn't too interested in eating. He generally doesn't eat a lot in general. So next time we might have a mixture of a slower release carb, but probably try a bit harder to eat during the day, just so you got that constant energy. But the fast acting carbs did help, and you could see it sort of lifted. When we started to give him a little bit more, he started to respond a little bit more, and he could probably go a little bit harder. All in all though, like absolutely epic effort from Ethan. He should be really proud of himself. 488 on merino ewes is a massive tally, and those sheep weren't the easiest to shear. They were pretty tough. Awesome support from the crowd, and yeah, pretty much I would say he's going to have a little bit of a rest now, and then he'll probably get straight back into it. He wants to start tomorrow, and he probably needs a bit of a break. Just let it all soak in. Yeah, but that's pretty cool. So a couple other things that could probably that could make a big difference is, if you are going to do something like this and you have a support team, what you want to do is make sure you know the rules of what you can and can't do 100%. What you want to know is that, yeah, Jackson, I'll get onto that in a second, man. Having a fellow like Cartwright Terry, he knew how to set up that pen. He also knew where you could and could get away with certain things, and it was really helpful to have someone like that on the team. And then also someone like Pope, he's got a ton of experience. He knew where the gear was. So making sure you got those guys, but probably also having a little bit more preparation earlier in terms of, one thing the boys were saying is that, they could have done a proper crutch on these sheep a few months ago, and it probably would have opened them up a little bit, but they just weren't quite ready on that point. So that's something they'll definitely do in the next part, especially with drafting the sheep as well, because you want a pretty massive, you want to make sure you got the best of the best, so that you can, the difference between a 45-second sheep and a 55-second sheep, that's a record, so you got to make sure you got everything in line. Jackson, man, yeah, Cartwright said, I was sort of talking to him on the second run. He's like, yeah, this shouldn't be as hard as what it should. And it was, yeah, we both agreed that, physically it was a tough day, and probably the fitness wasn't there. But come the last run, Cartwright was just like, look, no matter what the result, I think he's earned a lot of respect. The tallies that he has done have been on lambs. They've been crutched, and they're massive tallies, and you can see the effort that he's put into those. They weren't easy tallies. Ethan's a talented shearer, but then to go and share that many sheep on the sheep that he did was a mighty effort, and Cartwright said he's just definitely earned a lot of respect today, which was pretty cool. Other cool things that I thought were cool is Lou Brown and Josh Clayton were there to support and watch, and just having other fellows that have been there and done it, that was pretty cool to see as well. Massive effort from the crowd. Another good thing, I'm actually going to put all of this into a template soon, but George, I can't remember his last name, the local contractor that Ethan was working for, he done an awesome day of setting up the shed. He had a caterer out there, he had chairs, he had everything set up. He was just running around in the background. He done an awesome effort, and I think that's something that should be taken into account, all those little things that make the day a lot more enjoyable, a lot more easy. So making sure you got that massive team around you is pretty good. Sweet, guys. Well, if you got any more questions, just chuck them down the bottom. I'm happy to answer a few more. I guess, look, it was a massive day. Didn't get the result that he was after, but you could see at the end of the day, that he was just proud of himself, and he could hold his head up high, and that's all you can ask for. If you've left it all out there, no matter the circumstances, no matter the odds, at least you've given it your best. You can hold your head up at the end of the day, and you can see he was really proud. How's it going, Michael James? What was your thoughts on the day, man? It was good to see you fellas out there and meet you in person. Brent Armour, man, so I think he had a few that were rejected for stitches, man. He cut a few, but I'm not too sure. It was probably about maybe 4 or 5 that he lost, but it was just more so cuts that he didn't see and he just didn't stitch or something like that. Combs, they were sort of like a medium bevel, accelerates, I think they were, to be honest, and they were sort of about mid. They weren't too thick, but they weren't too thin. The sheep were a little bit doughy and a little bit sticky, but they're also a little bit soft on the skin. So if you went too narrow, too fine, you probably would have cut a few more. So they had to sort of keep a little bit of shape to the combs, but they weren't too bad at combing. It was just the odd one. Sweet, guys. If you got any questions, just chuck them down in the comments, and if you're watching this after, feel free to chuck comments on. I'll see if I can jump on and answer them. But once again, awesome to be part of that. There's a heap of records coming up, so pretty excited. We're starting to get a pretty good toolbox and all of this stuff. Each one's always different. The better you can prepare. You got to prepare for these sort of things, you can't leave anything to chance. You just got to find a way. In terms of what I take away from it as a coach, potentially could have been on his case a little bit more to make sure he was doing that training. But all in all, we had some bloody good chats, just getting that mindset right, and that's what got him through on the day. Fitness or no fitness, the man's got a heart the size of the size of anything. He's got a bloody giant heart, so that's awesome. Probably the big takeaway is that you can prepare in the shed. You can, and you should. If you're going to do a tally of some sort, make sure you're preparing in the shed. Put yourself under those conditions. Put yourself under a bit of pressure and a bit of stress. Competition shearing. Sweet MJ, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. It was a big learning curve from him, and that's probably going to be the best thing for him. I think everyone that is thinking about doing this in the end should get in there and learn as much as you can. Obviously, do your best. You don't want to fail at all, but you probably learn more from your failures than you do from your wins. Yeah, cool. 3 sheep rejected overall. Sweet as, guys. Well, I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into the day. It was an awesome day. Looking forward to sort of working a bit more closely with Ethan and see if we can get some more stuff happening in the future. All the best, guys. Have a good day. We'll talk soon.